Good morning, comrades. Today is that day when I will be live on TikTok immediately after Raila Odinga goes down at the AUC in Addis. The conman is going to be defeated beautifully. Stay tuned. Viva. Raila Odinga went behind the Gen Z's backs and did a deal, an evil contract, an arrangement with the abductor and the chief mass murderer in East Africa, the most corrupt man in Africa, the second most corrupt man in the entire world, William Kipchirchir Ruto, stood in front of the entire world at the KICC and announced that he was going to support Ruto. He didn't care that Ruto had murdered hundreds of Gen Zs after the protest, during the protest, and in days after that has perpetrated a systematic abduction of young people, disappeared them, tortured them, and continues to kill many of them. Raila didn't care about that. Raila didn't care about the real grievance that led to the Gen Z revolution. The fact that the Gen Zs, more than 65% of them, highly qualified, young with a lot of energy and vision, are unemployed. And there are no reasonable prospects that they will get employment. This year, next year, the year after, 10 years from now. That is not in the plan of these power barons, the bandits in Nairobi. And the Gen Zs could see that and said, look, we own the country. Kenya does not belong to William Ruto. Kenya belongs to 56, 60 million Kenyans, 65% of whom are Gen Zs or younger. These are the owners of the country. These are the people that the future belongs to. Not the renegades. Not the old people that have looted and are going to die in a few years anyway. But no, Raila did not stand with the Gen Zs. Raila did not stand with the future. Raila stood with his stomach. Raila stood with his greed. Raila stood with his conmanship and arrogance and said he was going to join Ruto in cracking down on the critics of the government. That's point number 3. Having betrayed the Gen Zs in the face of a vicious, most humane and cruel, barbaric crackdown. Having betrayed the Gen Zs who had shed blood while campaigning for their rights. Having betrayed the Gen Zs that were just about to lead an overhaul, a complete transformation of the Kenyan rotten political system. Having betrayed the Gen Zs that were leading the revolution, Raila Odinga could not be elected in Addis Ababa because that would be a bad betrayal for the entire Gen Zs in the African continent.
Bunge, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to BAV. This is Bunge Audio Visual. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Miguna's take on Raila's betrayal and the AUC elections prediction. So, we begin. Let's dive into Miguna's strong critique of Raila Odinga, accusing him of betraying the Gen Z youth during the 2024 protests by siding with the government and allowing the abduction of citizens. So, Miguna alikuwa anasema Raila Odinga actually went behind the Gen Z's back and did a deal, what he termed as an evil contract with the current president, that is William Samoei Ruto, and he did this without even caring about the abducted youths and the lost lives of the Gen Z protests, or of the Gen Z protesters. So you all know that the moment statistics says it that 65% of the Kenyans are actually made up of the Gen Z generation, and the Gen Z generation is actually the one that imekuwa very very woke in terms of matters concerning politics and matters concerning equity and justice. Yeah, wananchi wa Kenya, but it seems that Raila doesn't actually stand with the Gen Zs or the Kenya's future. The only thing that the moment Miguna alikuwa anasema Raila understand with is actually his stomach. And the reason as to why I'm saying this is that Miguna actually claims that Raila's actions reflect a focus on personal gain rather than Kenya's future, because alikuwa anasema kuna most of the ODM members, most of the parties of the members of his party, that is the Orange Democratic Movement, walikuwa able kupata those lucrative positions in government because time kulikuwa na hii protest agencies and the government had to come to its knees, and they had, the only thing that the government had to do is to listen to whatever the to whatever the citizens demanded, to ensure that kuna kuanga na ile some sort of stability in the country, because most of the people were claiming that hakukuwa na jobs, kulikuwa na so many problems that the citizens were actually going through. So many people were bitter, and for the government to actually try and regain its popularity, it had to sit down, it had to listen to the kind of cries that the citizens were making. And so some of the things, or rather some of the measures that it took, to ensure that most of the CS walikuwa lazima wapelekwe home. So he had to fire some of the CSS, all of the CSS, and so he had to reinstate some of them, na wengine wakarushwa endo wakaenda into wakapotea wakiendanga kabisa. But the funny thing is that despite even firing all the CSS, or rather replacing some of the CSS, there is no single youth mwenye alikuwa appointed in those various ministerial positions. So Miguna saw this as a very very bad, or rather unpopular move, because he thought that now that Raila was the one actually supposed to present, at least to present some of the youths wenye labda angepata these opportunities, aliamua kutake opportunity akapatia members of his party, talk of the likes of Akina Joho, the Minister of Blue Economy and Mining, talk of Akina Mbadi, wow, the minister, that is the CS of Treasury, talk of Akina Oparanya, the former government of Kakamega County, that is the CS of cooperatives, talk of, there are so many people. So I think the reason as to why Miguna is so bitter with Raila Odinga, Miguna and Raila Odinga have been friends for a very, very long time, and Miguna exudes some highest level of loyalty to the party and to Raila as his party leader back then. But it reached a point akuja kuongelea kulikuwa na some sort of betrayal yenye alipata from Raila, which I'm not going to talk about in this episode. But at the moment, the way I'm seeing things go, I think Miguna is actually going to have a bigger influence come towards the 2027 elections, because nowadays I've seen Miguna being very, very active on X, and he claims Raila's actions reflect a focus on personal gain rather than Kenya's future, because our members of ODM because the members of his ODM party actually secured the ministerial positions while the youth was sidelined. And additionally, we discussed Miguna's predictions about Raila's loss in the AUC elections, where he boldly stated that the conman is going to be defeated beautifully. You've seen in the video, Ali predict that Raila was actually going to lose this election in imepita, the AUC chairmanship, where the Djibouti candidate was the one alikuwa able to take that position. And the funny thing is that this prediction came true, leading many to reconsider Miguna's stance on Raila, with some now believing that to an extent he was right. Unaona? So I think personally I'll say that Raila losing that AUC chairmanship position has no impact to his political career as many actually expected. But one thing I know, even before he went to campaign for that AUC chairmanship position, even before, even if I told even hata kama Raila mwenyewe angeenda, Raila bado, I think he's in sunset days as far as politics is as far as matters of politics is concerned, because in 2027 I'm pretty sure most, if not everyone, a larger percentage, most of the people of this country, most of the citizens of this country, most of the electoralists in this country are actually going to vote based on someone's past track records, or rather on someone's competence in that respective position that atakuwa na bid for. So in this episode, basically, nimekuwa tuna explore the themes of political loyalty, leadership, and the growing influence of the youth in Kenya's political future. So I don't know what's going to happen, but one thing I'm sure about is that in 2027, it's going to be very, very difficult. Very, very, very difficult for Raila to be able to revive that kind of wave he had back then in his fine days, in his at his prime days. In the 2022 elections, in the 2013 elections, in the 2007 elections, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to revive that wave that he had. Because most of the people right now, in fact, the people to watch right now are the likes of Akina Natembea, the likes of Akina Rigathi Gachagua. Even though Rigathi Gachagua cannot be able to be to vie for any political for any position in this, for any leadership position in this country, but he might be the one having the influence to drive people towards the winning side. So it means that the guys to watch, Natembea, Gachagua, and anyone who might be falling under the category that I've just stated, guys like Eugene Wamala, the party of the party leader of DAP, guys like Babu Owino, guys like Edwin Sifuna. Those are the guys to watch come 2027, because I'm pretty sure this time people are really going to vote depending with how one is competent. Rather, should I say competent? No. People are not going to vote based on handouts they're usually given. Rather, they're going to vote because they feel that this particular candidate is fit enough to hold this political office. Yeah. So that's it for today. Stay tuned for more updates.